I'm not that involved anymore. That was how I got my start with Hi-Rez, was through business, and now have transitioned more into the esports and kind of being involved with the game communities and being more of a face rather than
Yeah.
crunching the numbers anymore. I still look at and do some analysis around like the Twitch viewership and to an extent some of our analytics on our website, but it's not it's certainly not where it was 2 years ago when I started here.
Okay. Nice. Do you have any impact on the game? Can you Can you say anything? Do you have any say in making the game, in making Smite?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have a culture here that's, we have lead designers certainly, but it's a design team, and really the whole development team is kind of considered part of the design team. So, if someone asks me, or I feel like it's important to interject, like, I think that the reason that this is so strong, just theory crafting things, right? Like, I think that the reason that there isn't a jungle meta in Smite is because the camps need to be further from the middle lane, because if you increase the experience too much, the mid lane snowballs and creates passive play. And I, that's my opinion. I feel very comfortable to say that, and I feel like it's, something that gets internalized and decisions are made based on really all of the feedback. And we have a pretty solid culture around, the best idea wins,
Okay.
over my idea wins.
So if you were to sum it up, so actually everybody has a say in it who works at Hi-Rez or who is
Yeah,
involved in the game.
that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the lead, and as well as the CEO Erez is very very involved, and if he feels strongly about something, at the end of the day, he gets a vote, and it's a very very strong vote, if not a absolute one. So,
Okay.
I mean, there is some amount of, this is the way we need to go, and
Hmm.
then but there's also quite a bit of brainstorming and collaboration that goes into changes.
Okay.
Specifically, can I point at something though and be like, yeah, like I did this? Like, no, not really, because I represent a very small portion of the game as an esports manager.
Yes, of course. But
So usually it's more like I try to be the player advocate for what the competitive players tell me and what they want, and what I glean from conversations with them, and their opinions, and try to say, hey, this is what my group of guys thinks about the current state of the game, and
okay.
that's also something that our community manager Brandon Dukes, he'll do as well. I mean, he'll be like, the community, the forums, and Reddit as a whole, they feel like this, and then the designers take that and run with it.
Okay, nice. This is actually one of my follow-up questions, though. But yeah, I think you just answered it perfectly fine. So the community has a big say to what happens with the game.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, focus is gone because the community didn't like it.
yeah, it was really funny because I read that bans will never go. I think you said it on Twitch the day before the patch. The bans from Conquest won't go from Casual Conquest, and the next day they were gone. So was that just a joke from you,
No, I mean,
or
I
no? It
guess.
was okay. It was
Well, what happened was likely that I didn't think that we were going to get rid of them. Like, I was just misinformed, I imagine, at that point. Like, if it was literally
oh
the next day,
okay.
we're planning on changing it. But it's also entirely possible that, me saying that lightning rodded some amount of, like, people onto the forum being like, hey, we really want this gone. And, I mean, that's something that it wasn't sacred to us. I don't know if I said, like, hey, we're not going to remove it. I was just like, I don't know of any reason why, or if we will. I know that some of you guys have feedback on that. Be sure to post it. That's usually how I try to phrase things.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't, because I'm just ragey because I play games all the time. But in general, yeah, I mean, it's just like, if people are really like, hey, this really stinks, it's making my experience worse, and enough people say it, and there's not clear cases for why we should keep it,
Yeah.
it's pretty simple for us to just be like, yeah, okay, fine.
I'm one of the people who are really active in the feedback thread of Arachne.
Hmm.
And I think every second message is please buffer X or do something about her ultimate.
Yeah.
So why hasn't anything been done so far?
Okay. Well, specifically in Arachne's case, I would say that the reason that you probably don't see a lot of changes to her is that she, I imagine, performs pretty well in terms of statistically, in the scheme of things. Like, she's probably, and this is a guess, but the reason that I would assume that she's not buffed is that she's probably in the top 15-20% of gods in terms of KD,
Yeah,
at
okay.
all levels of play,
Hmm.
and as well as, like, gold farmed and other, like, kind of salient statistics. So you look at that and you say, okay, she's not having trouble performing. Now, when you play the
Okay.
game
Yeah,
at
I
a
get
high
it.
level, you say like you can realize that yeah, she has some deficiencies. Like that doesn't make her really that viable for super high level play. It requires kind of you have to build around her, have a more gimmicky style strat. Run like a Sobek to toss stuff into her and really set that up and have it planned. So does she maybe need to be tweaked a bit, perhaps, to make her? Ideally, she would be just as strong statistically, but be more viable, perhaps. Like something like making it so the eggs require 2 hits from any source instead of a damage amount, or a damage amount instead of a single hit, and then adjust the spiderlings accordingly. Yeah, I mean that's probably something that would be reasonable to do on her, but in general, that's how it's looked at. It's like basically like some amount of the decision making is based purely off of player feedback, like just like what are people thinking and saying about this perception wise. Do we need to change something? Like, do we need to make the ultimate 5 seconds less? Like, that's not really going to impact anything that much, but should we do it because people's perception is that she needs something and anything is good? Like, so there's some amount of that, right? That, just to be perfectly honest with you, there's some of like, should we do something specifically for the community that has this feelings?
Okay.
But then that's like, let's say 30% of decision making process, and then there's another large percent that's statistically what's going on, like what is actually happening with this character, and then there's some other like probably smaller percent of the community that's just like the designer makes a decision, right? I mean, like they have their own input on it and they have their own way they think about it, and we discuss it internally. Okay. And they say, we don't want to try something that's that aggressive. We think maybe we can change this little thing, and then we'll look at it later. And sometimes that's a little bit awkward for a community, right? Like they, you can see like Arachne gets 1 second cooldown reduction on Drain Life or something, and you're like, but like that sometimes could indicate that we're worried that too much is going to tip the scales.
Yeah, I get it.
Statistically, that's what we're seeing. So that's in general the process for balance.
And to be honest, I for one think she's really well balanced. One of the more balanced gods in game. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that she's in a good spot. Like her damage once she's like doing her thing, so to speak, is good. Like she feels good when you're like fighting someone in close quarters and you have the eggs, and you can kite them, and you can drain life, you can slow them, you can auto attack. And you have an ultimate, like on paper seems very strong, but I think that she's missing just some little tweak somewhere that really lets her be more effective as a roamer or potentially as a jungler. But we'll kind of see how that goes. I imagine that all the gods I'm sure will be touched at some point in a long enough timeline. Everything's going to be balanced or rebalanced, I guess is really the appropriate way to say it.
Okay, so we drifted a little bit off because, to be honest, I wanted to start about you, because right now you are like the go-to guy for the community. You are a Bort, and yeah, people just like you and love your streaming. So, when you started, did you think you would be such a big persona? I mean, nobody think that, of course, but how much surprised were you? I was just like, yeah, I know, I just got this shit, people.
Well, I have a pretty like serious trial by fire with tribes. So my background, like I said, was I have a business degree, and I, was a game enthusiast for all of college and much of my younger life, and was watching, got into MOBAs really through Heroes of New Earth, and was watching Honcast and Breaky CPK a lot, and those guys, and watching what they did, and watching StarCraft commentary, and was like watching Heroes of New Earth, right? And was like, I think I can do this. So I went and downloaded a replay, like got my brother, I have an older brother by about 3 years, that called him up and was like, all right, let's try to do this. And just like kind of did it, posted it up on game replays, and like, got like 20 replies or something. And people were just like, yeah, pretty good job, keep going. Like, and so I was like, oh, neat. And I did like one more and never did it again because I, started working more.
Yeah, okay.
I was an analyst, like I was a consultant, so I had more accounts and I was unable to have time to do it. And then, I kind of got hired at Hi-Rez, and part of my like pitch to them was like, hey, I have this skill set, which was, I was good enough to like, I could send them VODs of like, the 2-3 ones that I'd done. And it was like, okay, I have some amount of base ability to do this thing. I can see something and talk about it quickly. That's, enough to get going if you're passionate about the game. And, so I started there, right, and that transitioned into lots of shoutcasting for tribes, And then with Smite, I Thor was really where it started, right? Thor came out. I drank a bottle of mead on stream and played Viking metal, and
I actually remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's where it all started. I wore a hat not dissimilar to this one, and like we got like solid, like I think probably like 400 or 500 people watch, and it was like it was a big deal for us. I mean, because
Yeah. And
like
sorry to interrupt. After the open
No,
beta,
please.
it's just like 1,000 more people started to watch. I think it after the game went open beta, just really raised up.
Yeah, I mean, you can also watch the stream in the game now, which
Yeah.
does help the numbers pretty significantly. But yeah, my like the guy who owns the company, HiRezBart, is like he really likes watching content of the game, which is kind of leads us into why we have a 24-hour channel and why this all happened.
I get it.
Basically,
Like, that's
basically
my
what went on
company.
was-
That's my game.
Yeah,
Give
that's
me
right,
more
that's right.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did that, and he basically like came over to me and was like, the thing with the hats, go get more hats. You now do this every day.
Okay.
Right? And it was like, and I was like, oh my God, okay, so now I'm going to run this.
So wait, Bart, you're really saying you usually don't wear these many silly hats in real life? Oh my God, my mind
No,
has just been blown.
I don't have, my collection of hats all started based on my CEO saying, you give away hats. Like, that's your thing now. You give away hats and you run a live show. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, well, we need to do a tribes one also. Like, we should do this for tribes. So I was casting, I was doing like a show for tribes and a show for Smite. It's like 7 hours a day. And now I do a 4-hour show for Smite, and APC has picked up the tribe show from 1 to 3 p.m. So that was kind of the synthesis of it. And, I guess I just play a, 15x version of myself, and I try to keep it pretty much like my actual views and lifestyle and all that, so that I don't have to really put on an act. I can just kind of like get hyped up. It's not because I don't know. I just feel like it would be unsustainable if I had like a character that I was doing more or less.
So you would say your streaming persona is really almost like your real persona.
Yeah, it's like me, like
just the
being on a
hats are something extra.
It's me like with a magnifying glass and
Yeah,
a couple of Red Bulls. Like that's. I mean, if we're hanging out watching a movie, I'm not like, oh my God, did you see that? But like, it's not that different from who I am. I mean, I have the same sense of humor, and I say what up though to people like in real life. So it's not.
Anyone want to see what's in the box? I get it. Okay.
That works great at bars.
Yeah, it depends on where you have the box, I guess. So, getting back to esports, what are the plans in the future for Smite? So there's an 100K tourney coming up. Can you tell us something about that?
As of right now, there's not too much I can say about it publicly, but it's in the planning stages, and it basically will have a land component to it, and it will be $100,000 prize pool, and we're basically ramping up in the game to get to the point where we want to kind of start moving the next pieces for that. So you see the demos getting in, you see kind of the ability to watch streams in the game. We basically are building the foundation to get to that. The game releases like sometime in the first quarter of this year is what we've been planning. And so, things are obviously ramping up around that. We'll be at PAX in about a month now and we'll have a tournament there as well. So there's quite a bit of esports activity going on around Smite, and more and more teams are getting involved, and more events are interested in having Smite as being part of it. And we're thrilled to basically support everything we can. We're snapping up shoutcasters and content creators left and right to try to like basically have enough to cover all of the craziness that's about to happen. Not to be like build up this amazing surge of esports, but it's like I'm all the time just like talking to different admins, different tournaments, different sponsors, different everything, just like, hey, yeah, good to hear from you. You still interested? Let's talk about what we can do. And the things come together really quickly when they come together. So be on the lookout. Like I think now we're up to 3 or 4 tournaments. It'll be 4 tournaments now with the Vex Gaming tournament that runs during the week that we'll have. It's My Revenge is running a tournament on Sundays. Curse has a tournament on Saturdays. Borderland Gaming has a tournament on Sundays. It's for casual players, as well as the Vex Gaming tournament during the week now. And that's going to continue to grow, probably to the point where we have multiple ones that conflict, and we'll have to start segregating EU-US and skill levels more appropriately and these types of things. So the esports scene for SMITE, it looks really, really promising right now, and the stream numbers are really good. They continue to grow, and you know, I couldn't be more excited, and you know, I'm proud of the players and the teams and the guys that have, you know, come together to have some personalities and be positive members of the community.
Yeah, it's actually really nice to see how fast the game grew. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I think closed beta started in July last year.
Yeah.
And from that, you can see Reddit goes wild with the game and all the input and you get from all sides. It's really satisfying, I can guess.
It's looking, yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, of course it's, you know, it's like anything when you make something and people have opinions about it. Like when they're like really excited about it, you're really excited about it. When they hate it, you're like, oh man, like I wish I didn't hate it that much. Like I wish we could have had this guy have more fun. But you know, it's it grow. I mean, we had 1 million accounts really quickly. We have, you know, solid player populations. We're excited about the growth curves there. We're, you know, obviously the game is not enormous yet. I mean, like we still have time queues. We still have, you know, there's still issues with player population, right? Like when you say that you're in Europe and you play at peak US times, you're going to get US servers most likely, because
yes, of course,
that's just how the player population is right now.
It's simple math, so yeah.
Yeah. So that you know, there's still things like that, like, you know, like we're not like, there's still a long way for us to go to be like, yeah, we've you know, we're killing it. We're, you know, a huge contender in the esports MOBA scene.
What's League of Legends?
Yeah, what's a champion? But
right.
like it's looking, I mean, the way it's going right now, it's great, and I hope it continues to go, you know, like this for all time, right? I mean, it looks, esports is going to continue to grow. I mean, Riot's putting so much money and really setting the bar so high for what it can be, and Valve is following suit, right? Of course, with their international tournaments, and MOBA gaming is becoming so phenomenal. It's such a phenomenon, really worldwide, of watching it as a actual sport. I think that, you know, it's a great sign for us, and you know, as a studio that makes nothing, we only make Unreal Engine 3 games, right? And we only make PvP games. So, you know, I think the future's pretty bright for that kind of studio.
Okay, so you mentioned before that SMITE will still or is planned to be released in early 2013. So you guys think the game is ready? Because right now it's like version 0.1.35, something like that. So
the versions are irrelevant, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just like, that's just like the amount of, we've had 1,700 builds of SMITE, right? You know, like, it's like, it's not, I wouldn't say, like, I don't expect us to go into
just
like
numbers,
a
so
0.2 phase or something right before, you know, nothing like that. It's the game release is, you know, do we think it's finished? I would say you don't release free-to-play games finished. Like, there's no such thing.
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree. Yeah.
You know, so release in a free-to-play game is generally more about some kind of timing or an event, or, you know, when you want to do certain things with, you know, your communities, or you know, you think you have good exposure right now and you can push it. Like, there's a ton of factors go into when you release a game, just retail game. You know, like, oh, we want to be between Halo and the next Call of Duty, and we want to make sure that we're not around other games like us, so we're going to come out at the end of March. But with free-to-play, it's more just like, okay, well, the launch isn't this, like, enormous, like, deal, right? Because we're going to continue to make the game. We're not, like, signing off and all taking vacations and giving each other high fives, you know? So it's more like, what do we want to do with our launch, you know, is more the thing. So tactically, we're, like, planning, I imagine, for it. I'm not really privy or able to say publicly, of course, when launch is going to be, or how far along we are with it, but
I understand. Okay.
But I think, you know, I think that we're planning cool stuff for it is I guess the best and most honest answer.
Okay, thanks, mate. Sorry. I'm Canadian all of a sudden. So one of SMITE's advantages is that you can just go into the game, and if you don't want to be all serious in Conquest or something, you can go Arena, you can play Domination, or you can just play Joust if you want to. Or Match of the Day, yeah, you add a Match of the Day. Yesterday was really fun, the random thing, that was awesome, by the way.
All random, yeah.
Even though, that was the fun part, and that's one of the questions, actually. Yesterday, everybody was like, yeah, I never played this god before, it's awesome. And then we just had one Kali was like, yeah, always play Kali in Arena. And you guys suck, we will lose because of you, I hate you all. You fucking, and then racial slurs and so on. Do you have any plans on how to deal with, yeah, insulting and hateful players?
Well, I mean, of course, you can report them, and we do review the reports and suspend players all the time,
Yeah,
like all
okay.
the time.
So
So,
there's actually something being done
oh
about
yeah,
it.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, of course, like people leaving games is you get we have the goodwill rating, and we have some kind of like soft like I guess like incentivization to not be a piece of trash in the community. But I think that as the player population grows, it makes sense. And you see other games, any game really that has a large population, you have to figure out ways to crowdsource your ability to, kind of identify these players. So you have, like you look at Dota. Dota has what the player rating. League has a very, very robust ability to report players and their whole like summoner tribunal thing, and that's just in MOBA gaming, but really all online communities, MMOs, anything now have these kind of social ranking systems, and that really helps. And it's really about, I think, you try to build a culture of like, just like if you help people out, you get pretty things. Like you can have a angel wings or whatever, like, and people will just like try to grind out this achievement of like not being a horrible human.
So I guess what we can take from it, you guys are also maybe thinking about some sort of rewarding system for players who behave good.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying that that's something that I know is in development, and I'm even saying that like I know that we're not like working on that. Like there's not a guy doing that right now.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it's necessitized by a growing population. Is that you have to just get more and more kind of robust in how you allow people to report players and how you're able to collect information about who are really the worst members of the community and start weeding that out. And you got to promote a positive game experience. That's part of the reason why we don't have all chat, right? I mean that takes out some amount of people that would just that you don't get trolled for making bad plays by the other team, at least.
Yeah.
At least there's that.
Something more serious. I don't know if you want to comment on that. You don't have to, of course. What do you think about the Root situation? Especially Jerby, Richard Lewis. That kind of blew out of proportion, in my opinion. It was more drama than there should have been, but...
That's kind of how I feel about it as well. I mean, it kind of just... Everyone wanted the last word, right? And it just like kind of just kept on escalating because of that. I know that Root as an organization is they really are about their community presence. Like that's their kind of philosophy as a team, because they're kind of made by players for the players sort of philosophy.
Yeah.
And I'm just sad that it for them, and that's their main kind of bailiwick, that they had to kind of come into the SMITE community on the back of this drama as a team, and then that group of guys is they're really good guys, and they're good players, and they all have a lot of passion and whatnot. So it's just all around. It's just like it kind of sucks that's how many people are gonna hear about Juice being picked up by Root. But I think that they are pretty clearly kind of they are the most popular players, right? I mean, the Root fans are out enforced former Juice fans, and those player streams get the most viewership, and so they have. I mean, Root's picked up just a very like SMITE. The SMITE community looks at them, right? I mean, that's like where everyone's looking right now. It's like how Fnatic's teams were in Han, and how
yeah, of course,
IG is in Dota, and how these types of teams are I guess TSM to an extent in League of Legends. You get everything becomes this like problem or phenomenon, because everyone knows who you are, so everyone's like, well, my opinion should be really taken into account here on this already bloated Reddit post. So I think that it kind of got blown out of proportion, and would have and should have gone away, but is it's not really about that anymore. Allied's the captain, and they're playing and they're winning, and I do see that there's continued kind of chatter about it, and I talk to Root fairly regularly and try to basically be like, look, I'm here and willing to help you guys out any way that you can. I'm happy to have the guys on the show. I'm happy to take official statements. I'm happy to relay any kind of information you want. I think you guys are a really positive influence, and that this is just all a misunderstanding, and that it was. I mean that's really all that I can is worth saying about it. I think.
Of course. I think it's more than fair enough, though. Thank you, sir. How much of the this actually was the question before? So, but how much of the recommendations of professional players like Lesses, for example, go into the game? So, if he like says, guys, on whose impale has to be 2 seconds shorter, do this and that. Do you actually listen to that, or is their input the same as from the community, or is it more important?
Their input is more important for when we're thinking about high-end balance.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's like, if we're like, okay, we're pretty happy with where Anher is in terms of 85% of players, 95% of players, but we want him to be a little bit less effective, a little bit more effective, or a little bit what have you in competition. Like we don't like that we don't see him very much, or we think that his presence could be changed, or we get a recommendation from a player like, hey, if Arachne's pull was 5 seconds shorter, here's all the ramifications we think, and maybe we evaluate it then for high-end balance. But like in general, no. I mean, they don't have any more influence than any other player when it comes to overall changes. But if we're specifically looking at a change for high-end esports quote-unquote balance of this god, like maybe like Bacchus, right, where it's like bad players are bad with Bacchus, good players are amazing with Bacchus. Okay, what do we want to so we know that we're never gonna he's never gonna get buffed up to the point. Or another example being like sniper rifles in tribes, right, or in FPS games. It's like players that aren't great with sniper rifles are never going to be good with sniper rifles. The players that are really good with them, you have to nerf these weapons a lot of times, because it doesn't really hurt the players that are already bad with them, like something like added reload time on a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it doesn't hurt the low player that much because they don't hit anyway. But the high player it limits them to an extent.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing that's the same thing with god balance, right? Where it's like if a god is doing fine or doing really poorly at low level play, but is amazing at high level play, or really bad at high level play, sometimes you can make adjustments just for that, and then of course it makes sense to talk to the top players. But besides that, they are just a part of the community.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for clearing that preconception up, because I think many people, even on the forums, I think you can see it often that people are just like, you only listen to the professional players, I hate you, this game sucks. But yeah, they still play it. So.
I think just one thing to note on that is that, a lot of times when you talk about the population as a whole, statistically, you look at things that, like let's say like Vamana or something, right? It's like Vamana is like very strong at all levels of play.
Yeah.
And you have people of these, like out of that, kind of 80% of players, it's like, they have widely different expectations and experiences with Vamana.
Yeah, of course.
And so, they feel like maybe sometimes like, you don't listen to me. Like, I'm telling you, Vamana's underpowered. I can never hit anybody with the umbrella. It needs to go faster. Well, the other guy's like, this is the easiest skill in the game to land. All you have to do is slow them once and they're dead. Vamana's overpowered, nerf him.
I for one think he's really annoying and he needs to be nerfed, but hey, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, right. You have all these different kind of experiences with him. Yeah. And then when you look at the numbers, it's like he's in a pretty good place. What do you do? Right? Like he wins 52% of games or something. Like that's a fake number, but let's say that's the case, right?
Yeah, okay.
He wins 52% of games. And at the bottom 20% of players, he wins 60% of games. At the top 20% of players, he wins 30% of games.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to make a change to make Vamana more viable in high-end play, do we do it?
Okay, yeah.
Because he wins at the low level and he's okay at the mid level, but the high level he's underperforms. So what do you do? And so maybe those players sometimes feel like that, oh, they never listen to me or to me and my friends or to me and this group of 100 people that have this opinion, because sometimes you balance for that large of a population with that different of an opinion off of the numbers, and try to maybe cherry pick good ideas here and there. But in general, you're like, okay, he's winning. He's not winning enough for most players. We should probably buff him, even though the competition players are saying, this is way overpowered. Like, it's dominating the games. You can't do anything. Maybe Bacchus being a good example there. Like, even though I don't think they complain about him dominating games, he's very strong presence, certainly in competitive play, but I don't think he does that incredibly well in low-level play. So I think we balance him accordingly, and you try to get him, just a little bit stronger without breaking the competition side.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I think that's all for now. Thank you very much for taking the time, sir. It's really appreciated. Anything you want to say at the end?
Okay, so be sure to watch me and watch us at PAX. That will be coming up at the end of March, guys. It's the 22nd and 23rd is that weekend. So I encourage you to come and watch us. We'll have a great show for you from there. And of course, I broadcast every day from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch TV SMITE Game. You can find me on Twitter at HiRezBart. And if you need me for any reason, feel free to email me at bart@HiRezStudios.com. Beyond that, things to say. Really glad that, you're producing this content, and I'm really happy for the people that are watching it. If you don't have Smite, be sure to pick it up, give it a shot, see what it's like. I mean, we have a pretty solid streaming presence, and I hope that you feel like as a studio and as me representing the studio that it's a we're pretty like involved, and we're small, and we love you guys in the game. So if you want to come play with us, come play. If you don't, then that's cool too. We like you.